Hello and welcome to Estuary TV News with me, James Dunn. Today we have our weekly paper review, a look back at the last week's biggest stories, but first, here's Erica Barker with the news headlines.
Hello, the headlines today. Grimsby firefighters are to march against cuts to local fire services, and a group of students in Hull detain a burglar until the police arrive. But first, there are calls for a new high-speed rail link college to be built on the Humber as a search for its location gets underway. The new college will work with a network of employers to boost railway and engineering skills development across the UK. Plans were originally announced earlier this year, generating significant interest from across the country. The government now wants to gather information from local areas on where the main site for the new college will be best located. Brigg and Gould MP Andrew Percy is one of those keen to see it come to our region. Grimsby firefighters are to march this Saturday against cuts to local fire services, which they say will endanger lives. Humberside Fire Authority recently announced that Cromwell Road Fire Station in Grimsby will effectively close, with one of its fire engines moved to Peaks Lane Fire Station and the other being lost permanently. Fire Brigade's Union Secretary Richard Walker says these cuts will jeopardise the safety of firefighters and those living in the local community. A group of students in Hull managed to successfully detain a burglar after a night out until the police arrived. Officers were called to the property on Auckland Avenue in the early hours of Friday morning and were able to arrest the man on suspicion of burglary. It is thought that the 30-year-old entered through an insecure bathroom window before being disturbed, and police are urging students to be vigilant and to ensure windows and doors are locked after several patrols in the area found a number of windows were left open. Humberside Police is hailing the success of a woman's triage system in Hull after the reoffending rates of those involved decreased. It was set up at the end of 2012 to recognise, manage and address the issues that led to low-level offending. The scheme provides all female offenders entering custody in Hull with a needs assessment by a trained specialist before suitable women are diverted to this scheme as an alternative to prosecution. They are then offered a variety of courses and counselling programmes such as domestic violence awareness, drug and alcohol support and employment and training. By January this year, 664 women were assessed from custody, of which 154 were seen as suitable candidates. Of those women, only 4 went on to re-offend. A Cleethorpes woman has been sentenced to 9 years in prison in connection with fraud and firearms offences. Hayley Brown, 41, of Goodwood Lane, Cleethorpes, was arrested by Humberside Police in November 2009 as an investigation was launched into allegations of fraud and forgery totalling around £1.2 million. It's thought a number of people had invested cash to purchase properties or invest in property developments in Turkey, but this was in fact not the case. Hull and East Yorkshire Hospital's NHS Trust is celebrating after receiving a share of £30 million to improve hospital care. £950,000 will go towards a project which allows doctors and nurses to monitor and record changes in their patients' conditions through the use of portable handheld devices. The money has been granted courtesy of the Nurse Technology Fund. A mock arrest and expert advice sessions are taking place at John Leggett College in Scunthorpe today to raise awareness of the dangers of legal highs, new psychoactive substances designed to mimic banned drugs. 2 police officers from Humberside Police will visit the campus to arrest students for encouraging peers to use legal highs to gather as much student attention as possible and discourage youngsters from taking the substances. Plans to build a new leisure centre in Bridlington take a step forwards as East Riding Council secured £2.1 million in government funding. Total funding for the work now stands at around £22 million, the majority of which is from the council's capital investment programme. The Leisure World facility is due to open its doors in 2015. And we're being encouraged to catch an exhibition celebrating the work of Lincolnshire explorer and botanist Sir Joseph Banks before it comes to an end in in May. In partnership with the Sir Joseph Banks Society, the exhibition centres on Benjamin West's portrait of the explorer, surrounded by artefacts he brought back to England. The Society says it's incredible to have the pieces here and are urging people to go along to the collection. That's all from me. Until next time.
Thanks, Erica. Now, here with me today, I have Paul Fisher, editor of the Market Raisin Mail and the Horncastle News. Thanks for coming in today, Paul.
Hi, James.
So we're going to look at some of the stories from the week in the papers.
Absolutely, yeah.
Where would you like to start?
Well, be slightly biased. Let's start off with the Raisin Mail this week.
That's a good one.
And our lead story. This is the story of obviously a troubled gentleman who went on the run from Lincolnshire police, basically.
So, I mean, this is an inquest into his death.
This is an inquest into
always
his
a
death.
sad story.
Which actually took place in Norfolk, in the King's Lynn area. And it's a tragic story, really, of a troubled gentleman who took his own life after being found by police in Norfolk, having run up a series of debts on credit cards that were fraudulently used because they were in his ex-wife's name. Police tracked him down to Norfolk and approached him and actually had arrested him at the time that he sadly used a firearm to take his own life. The coroner found this last week that he had taken his own life. Stuart Page from Coxwold near Caister, and a very sad case.
It's difficult to say too much more,
isn't
it?
It is difficult, and we always feel these are difficult with stories when the team are reporting them. It's a difficult story to write and to reflect. Because our deepest sympathies go out to his family and his friends. Yeah.
Well, from that, I mean, that was obviously a horrible thing to hear about. But we'll go somewhere slightly lighter from here, and we say in local journalism quite often that you couldn't make it up. But this story here in the whole Daily Mail, I think, is
this is an incredible story. I grew up. I used to love Home Alone.
Didn't we all?
Home Alone 2. When I was a kid, the first few movies in the late 80s and early 90s with childhood star Macaulay Culkin. Not heard a lot about him since.
I think we all wonder what happened to him. But
I've always wanted to know what happened to him. The whole Daily Mail has the answer.
Now we know.
He's in a band.
Yeah.
He's coming to Hull this June, June the 1st, I think it is.
And it's not just any kind of band, is it?
It's a very bizarre band. They're called the Pizza Underground, and they are a themed New York Velvet Underground cover band.
Based on pizza, with a pizza slant to their songs.
Indeed. They're going to be performing such hits as Pizza It Hurts.
Right.
And Take a Bite of the Wild Slice.
And I believe I'm waiting for my delivery man is another one.
I mean, you really couldn't write it. Unbelievably, he's still only 33.
Yeah.
It seems an eon ago that he was on our screens as Kevin McAllister in Home Alone. But here he's returning to the Adelphi in Hull, June the 1st. And you can go see the Pizza Underground. And
I mean, there's more in this story as well, because the further you get down, like the more interesting. I mean, he's been married.
He's been married and divorced to an actress, Rachel Mirrier. Married and divorced at the age of 19 in the year 2000. And then dated popular Hollywood actress Mila Kunis for 8 years.
Right.
Before they split in 2011. And obviously in the early noughties, it was in the press that he had some runnings with the law, but he's now back on his feet and touring as a pizza-themed Velvet Underground cover band. So
I wonder, do you think he'll do the face?
It's worth an office outing to see, I think. I mean, there's gig of the year maybe. Incredible. I mean, I think we've done with that one.
Yeah, I think we are. There's only so much you can say.
We'll move on. So this is a slightly quirky story from the Grimsby Telegraph, and this is honey. I'm home and there's a bomb in my van.
Something I've never had the privilege of saying,
So,
I'm afraid.
This is gardener, a Grimsby gardener, David Pritchard, and he's gone to work clearing a rural garden, rural land in Lincolnshire, probably like he does every other day of his life. He's put a lot of items he's obviously dug up in the back of his van, not thought anything of it, and driven home. And it's only later, when he's been clearing the mud off of what he thought was some scrap metal, a rugby ball shaped piece of scrap metal, that he's actually found that is what is thought to be they think, rather than a Second World War bomb, they think this was actually a training device.
Right.
That was used to, maybe to practice firing Second World War shells by the English army.
But I read the story and I thought one of the funniest things about it was not that he'd found it, but he was then going to go and drive it.
Yeah, he was going to drive it to he could drive it around in the back of his van to the TA barracks.
Yeah. And his wife had something.
Well, the voice of my other half will love me to say obviously the voice of reason as always, the all-knowing wife.
It's not a good idea.
But the wife is right as always, and suggested he called the police instead of driving it.
And they shut off the street.
Within 15 minutes, blocked off. It became a major incident. And
we've all had surprises at work, but I suppose this one takes the biscuit.
A happy ending, thankfully.
Yes.
It all turned out well. So,
Indeed.
So that's good.
What else have we got here?
So again from the Grimsby Telegraph. This is a woman who went crazy, claims shop sold stepson illegal high. And
that's a shop in Grimsby.
This
she
is a
thinks
shop in Grimsby. And
they sold her son illegal.
There are really two sides to this story, I think. And as you were saying, a shop in Grimsby, Cashmere, sold what she says was a legal high to her 16-year-old stepson. And
she's obviously angry and she's lost it and assaulted him, which you shouldn't do.
Which is never excusable. It's never excusable to get that angry that you assault someone. But you can understand that if she thinks her 16-year-old, juvenile stepson has been sold a legal high, you can understand her getting angry. And obviously at the same time, in the inside, it is a legal high.
We've got the shop owner saying, what I sold him was perfectly...
He's done nothing wrong, and he hasn't. The shop owner at Cashmere, Stuart, Wiltshire, has done absolutely nothing wrong because it's a legal high.
I mean, legally he hasn't, but I mean, some people would argue morally...
Well, he says it's not a legal high.
No.
He says that is a form of incense. And it's meant to fragrance the room. Now...
And is that right?
Yeah. Well, there are obviously incense sticks, which...
Can't see what's wrong with them.
Which are not deemed to be any kind of legal high, and you burn them and they fragrance the room. This, I believe, is a different type of incense. Yeah. A liquid. And I guess this then comes down, it's a wider discussion over whether maybe legislation, maybe the government, maybe the courts need to look at whether legislation needs to be brought in. Why do we need this form of incense if it could be used in another way?
It's an age-old debate, really, and I think the government have been saying they can do for a while, but they're constantly catching up, and I can't see us finding a solution anytime in the next few months.
And of course, then it has to be enforced. All these pieces of legislation coming in need enforcement.
Great. Well, I'm going to have to leave it there. That's all we've had time for, I'm afraid. But hopefully, we'll see you again.
Thanks.
Now, don't forget that if you've got any news or views, you can get in touch with us by calling Grimsby 315561. Get in touch on Facebook via our page, or tweet us at Estuary TV, or you can email us at news@estuary.tv. That's all for now, and we'll see you next time.